Okay, peace and blessings, Mishpachah. Glad to be back with you. And yeah, we just had a minor little issue there with the sound. My microphone was actually off, but it was supposed to be on. But hey, we've taken care of that. And I want to say, hey, peace and blessings to each and every one of you. Yeah, now I'm looking at you. And hey, glad to be back here. Of course, had a wonderful Shabbat Night Praise last night. It was absolutely wonderful. I enjoyed it. And hey, we're ready to go. I got my favorite green cup of coffee because it does what it does. And it's not a cup of coffee, it's a cup of tea. And it is absolutely wonderful. It is absolutely wonderful. I love it. Let's do this. Let me do a couple of things. I want to talk about a couple of things because I'm looking at, now by the way, Shabbat Shalom. This is, of course, for those of you that don't know, this is Shabbat Morning Coffee. Now, Shabbat Morning Coffee, it can look like this, or it can look like just what I had up here. But hey, long story short, this is where we talk about good books, we talk about good subjects, we talk about content, we talk about issues, we talk about a number of different things. And I'm going to do a couple of different things today. I want to take a moment and just kind of highlight some things, okay? I want to highlight some things on this morning that I feel are going to be interesting. I think these things are going to be interesting to those of you that see this, those of you that are going to trickle in a little bit later. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, okay? Now, one of the first things I want to do is I want to, let me do this, because I got a couple of things that I want to do right off the bat, and I need to make absolutely sure that that we're flowing correctly. Now, let me do this. One of the first things I want to do is, for those of you that don't know about our website, it is remnantnation.live. It's remnantnation.live, and this is the hub website where basically a lot of what we do is referenced here, but this is a gathering place just for the family. Again, it's kind of like Shabbat Morning Coffee, where we talk about some good things, some good content. And the site is yet being added to and updated all of the time. There are audios, there are videos, there are articles, and it's all about us. And the cache is increasing there, and we're starting to add more and more material in those areas of video, articles, and everything else. So I want to introduce you to that. Now, one notable thing about the website here, remnantnation.live, is that it's also the portal for our radio station, okay? It's the portal for our radio station, as you can see. And yeah, looking at the radio station, you just simply scroll down and you can actually play and you can listen. And there is an app for this also that we are in the final stages of releasing. And you can listen to, it's 24/7 high music, Hebrew Israelite music. You can go ahead and check that out. That's me before I change my hair, believe it or not. That's actually a work in progress, by the way. That is a work in progress. I am looking at making these changes to my do. And, but hey, this is from the Nation Live. You can listen. And translate it into another tongue. It is a nice place to be. It's a nice place to be. But there's things there. Check it out, right? Now, for those of you who may want to check out my personal site, because I also have a personal site. Let's see, is this the one for the personal site here? Because there's a couple of links here, and I don't have my glasses on, so I can't really read it. Okay, but no, this is something else I want to talk about. Okay, I'll take you here, because this is Brewbook. This is Brewbook. What is Brewbook? As I always say, it's not Facebook, it's Brewbook, meaning that this is, I mean, hey, it's a meeting platform. It's a platform where we can get together and not be censored like we are on YouTube and the other channels, right? It's our forum, it's our place, and we really want to up the traffic and really make this blow up, make it become something that is central to what we do. Moving forward. Also, let me do this because I want to take us back to. I tell you what, I'm gonna kind of preempt ahead here. Let me do one thing while I talk with you. Okay, and okay, scroll in here. There we go. Okay, now this is my personal site, Melky Uriel, and on this site you will find some goodies. It's about me, and again, here you can see everything that we're doing. You can connect to our YouTube channel, our Facebook, the radio station, the academy/university that's under development, and again, Brew Book Live. You're able to connect with all of that. Okay. One thing I failed to mention is that on the website that I just showed you, not Brewbook, but the beginning website, remnantnation.live, there's also a portal there for live videos. We do that through another streaming service, and we do that when we're doing live praise, live worship. So here you can find out about everything that I'm doing. Again, there's some videos there, there's some information about me, and of course you can contact me through the site here. Okay. All right, so that's pretty much it by way of just introductions as far as what we're doing. Now there is one other place that I want to go, and let me see if I can swing this because, all right, that's me, all right. But let me do this. Let me go here and see if this will pull it up for me. Here we go. Here we go. This is kind of what I want to chat with you about. I just want to talk about this particular station here, this particular television station. It is, I mean, it's Pan-African daily TV, and this is, it's a nice show. It really is. It's a wonderful show. You'll learn a lot about the African diaspora. You'll learn a lot about, you know, some of the current issues, things that are going on, and pretty much our perspective and where we stand on things. And not only that, but there's interesting people that I've come in contact with over the years, such as Professor James Smalls, or as he was called by one of the incidents, you know, Jeems. I won't tease him and say Jeems, but I've had the opportunity to meet him and to speak before him. He is a very knowledgeable brother. He is, of course, a Baba. He's someone that I respect as being an elder, and I just simply want to say that, you know, this is a good show. This is a good place to connect with, and by all means, do that. Connect with them. You know, subscribe to them, as well as us, right? As well as us, subscribe to them. And just kind of, you know, take in the information. Take in the information. I mean, I don't think that you will regret it. I really don't. I don't think that you will regret it at all, because as you can see, they have a number of guests on the show, and they are, I think that they're impactful, but they're informative, and I think that it is just a good show. So I commend my sister. I commend Dr. Tata. She is a wonderful person. And let's just continue. Let's just continue with what we are doing here. But I wanted to introduce this to you because, again, this is something that I feel like all of the family need to connect with, okay? It's Pan-African DTV, for daily TV. Pan-African Daily TV. Pan-African DTV. All right, so let me continue, and we will perhaps revisit. We will revisit this at another time. So let's just keep it moving here. And as I kind of switch things around, let's just do this. I want to come back to you and talk with you about some things that we are dealing with, some things that we're seeing, some things that we are experiencing, if you will. And one of the things I want to talk about on this morning, and by the way, you can bring up suggestions, you can bring up comments. In fact, let me even do this. Let me check to see if, all right, peace and blessings let me give some shout outs, right? Let me give some shout outs. Let's see. Okay, that's their channel. There we go. My brother's with me. Brother Berg in Paris. What's up? Mishpacha. All right, good to see you this morning. Good to see you this morning. And I don't know where you popped in, but I was just talking about Pan-African Daily TV. That's Pan-African DTV, and you can check them out and join them. They have interesting content, very, very wonderful guests that they have on. But listen, there's a couple things that I want to talk about. One of the things I want to talk about on this morning, there is a push, if you will, and let me say this, and I'm talking about cryptocurrency, and I'm talking about really just the whole digital interface and the whole digital world, right? Of course, Facebook is coming out with Metaverse, and individuals are scrambling, trying to create NFTs to get rich. But listen, all of this is on a digital platform. All of this is on a digital platform. And what you will see, now what I believe is going to happen is what you will see is that there is going to be a push for hologram technologies. There is going to be a push for virtual reality interfaces. And there's going to be a push, if you will, to bring our consciousness and to keep our consciousness centered in the digital world. Okay, now the reason why this is alarming to a certain degree is because it takes us out of our original matrix. Now let me just explain. One of the main struggles or battles, if you will. Now, can I take you back? Because I did say Matrix. So can I take you back to the movie The Matrix, which, by the way, just so happened to be coming out fresh and anew. Now, I don't know. I just kind of find that interesting, because when you know how the quote-unquote system works, or I should say, when you know what they're trying to propagate and what they're trying to push, there's a certain method and mannerism and mechanism that is employed. Okay, and what I'm saying is, you see the pattern and you begin to see things and you're like, so that's what they're trying to do. If you notice, there's been millions of dollars put into a sequel, if you will, another sequel, continuing the saga of, yes, The Matrix. Now, this becomes very important because now you remember in the first 3 movies of The Matrix, they were phenomenal, right? But for us back then, they were being, the thought of being plugged into a digital world and the thought of being plugged in and actually going into another reality, it was completely fictional to us, because we were living, listen, some of us, we were still dealing with dial-up back then, right? We didn't have high-speed modems. We were dealing with dial-up. We were dealing with, a number of things that were, and those were the dial-up days. I remember it. We just were dealing with such a level of technology. To have smartphones like we have them today was, smartphones were just, kind of coming in. You had, back then, I remember you had the Nextels that were the hot thing because they had the walkie-talkie with the phone. I know I'm dating myself, right? Some of you perhaps weren't even born back then. But you had the Nextels, then you had the Blueberry. Remember the Blueberries? Man, the Blueberry phone was, people thought that was great. Now, when we found out that we can get email on cell phones, it was like, oh no, man, they did that. And it was like, wow, man, that was like, I don't believe it, man. So, in fact, I was told that I didn't need one of those phones because it was just like a computer. Even back then, it was like a computer on your phone. And I was told that I didn't need one of those, So long story short, back then, during the original movie, The Matrix, it was so, you may as well have shown us another Star Wars movie. It was so far-fetched and outlandish, right? Brother Berg in Paris says that, he said, chirp. He says that the BlackBerry was his favorite, okay? So, kind of dated yourself there, bro, but that's okay. Hey, I'm in the same boat with you. I did like BlackBerries myself. But long story short, when the original series of The Matrix came out, it was phenomenal, but it was also highly fictional for us because it had no real base in reality unless you allegorize and interpreted the matrix to be the overall system, right? The overall system that we're now living in, so forth and so on. But listen, what we're faced with and what we're looking at now is an actual interface with digital arenas and digital worlds. This is what we're looking at. We're looking at the new dimension, or I should say the interdimensionality of digital interfaces with human beings. Elon Musk has already said, you know what, hey, it's time to meld humans together with machines and with computers. It's been an agenda, and it's been something that is, if you will, something that is already a reality, so to speak, even though it's not our daily experience. It's something that we not now must contend with. Now, here's what I believe is going on. Now, let's talk about this. Here's what I believe is going on. And this is going to get just a little deep, right? But hey, stick with me here, flow with me here for just a minute, because the push is towards a digital world and a digital interface, and to thereby slowly, just like they did and are doing with the dollar, the physical dollar, which by the way, no longer represents what it was supposed to represent. The physical dollar is being edged away, shoved over the cliff, if you will, for digital currency, right? Money will soon be a thing of the past, and it's only going to be those digital ones and zeros in your bank account that's going to mean anything, which of course, raises the value of hackers, but that's another story. But that's what it's going to be. So we're getting away from the physical. But wait a minute. Let me just interject this for a minute, because when you look at this little piece of truth, now let's ask this question. Is it true that physical money is being phased out? Yes, it is. Is it also true that digital currencies are now becoming the up and running thing? Yes, it is. Now wait, let's take that little snapshot, let's take that little picture and look at that reality, okay? Since that is true and money is a major focus and factor in our daily existence, right? We need it, right? That being the case, that being true, let's take a look at this truth, because now we've just isolated the truth. We've isolated something that is happening. Now, by doing this, if we look at it fractally, okay, now wait, hold on. What do I mean by looking at it fractally? I'm talking about looking at it in a way that we understand, if you will, that it is just a small snapshot, but that is very true in likeness and in function and in purpose to the overall bigger picture, okay? The overall bigger picture that we're looking at. So in other words, let me give you an example. Imagine that we go back in time. Indians, the indigenous peoples, the brown-skinned peoples, they're on this continent and they're just chilling, right? One day, here comes a boat with a bunch of people. And it's like, well, I saw one cartoon when, one of the indigenous leaders said to one of the pilgrims, do you guys plan on staying long? And it was meant to be, kind of like a joke, right? Well, you take that little bit of truth and then you look at what is happening today, right? Where, people are telling us as indigenous people and people of melanated skin, people of color, you go back to where you belong, right? Why? Because this is our land. And they even sing a song about it. This land is your land. This land is my land, right? From California to the New York Highlands. This land was made for you and me. Now, if you take the beginning of the pilgrims landing on shore and you look at today, here's what I'm suggesting. When we look at the pilgrims visiting the shores of the indigenous people here in the indigenous Americas, that is a fractal, if you will, that gives you the bigger picture of what has happened, right? So they kept coming, they kept taking over, boom, here we are today. I'm suggesting to you that it's the exact same thing all over again, but now in different arenas. We're talking about the physical paper being taken over, just as the indigenous peoples were taken over. And so we're talking about digital currencies taken over. Now, wait a minute. Again, we're looking at this fractally. What's happening is the digital world completely is taking out or taking away, if you will. It's taking away that which is quote unquote the real world. Now, real world, what is that, right? Takes you right back to Morpheus in the Matrix. You know, what is real? You know, impulses coming from your brain to your nervous system, making you feel that things are real. What is real? So this then becomes the question, right? This then becomes the question. With the, believe it or not, with the influx of even digital currencies where people are making big money. Now listen, originally they said, see, this is the deregulation of finances and they're not going to be able to control us. Might I posit, might I suggest that that was what you were supposed to think. That is, now listen, I'm not saying don't do currency, don't do crypto coin. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying don't do NFTs, okay? I'm going to do a few NFTs. I'm going to, I've got some money invested in cryptocurrency. But here's my point, and here's what I want to say. I'm not saying that it's evil. I'm not saying don't do it, right? Just as I mean, there's a number of different things that the scriptures, as far as the scriptures are concerned, it's allowable, it's permissible. You don't have a scripture telling you, no, don't do cryptocurrency, no, don't. But again, we have to be wise and watch what is going on. Again, look at the individual incident fractally, and you will see that it is a smaller portrait of the bigger reality. That's what I'm trying to communicate. And when it comes to the digital currency, we're using this as a snapshot, as a fractal snapshot, where it gives us the bigger picture, even out of this small, little, seemingly, yeah, it's serious, but yeah, it's small enough. We can keep living with cryptocurrency. Okay, everyone's going to be fine. But my point is, it is a picture of the desire, if you will, of the powers that be. And that's what I want to get at. It's the desire of the powers that be to move us away from a biological, purely human, purely physical existence, and by means of entertainment, by means of wealth, by means of a better life, by means of a more technologically advanced world, we buy into this digital system and sell our souls into being digital entities of ourselves rather than being who we were created to be. Okay. Hopefully you're still with me. So the push then is like the Matrix, and as I said before, there's another Matrix movie that just so happened to come out. So it's like the Matrix is reviving itself, and it's re-representing itself, or I should say representing itself. And of course, as AI does, it learns from its past and it continues to move, not like human beings who can be duped and who can be fooled and so forth and so on, right? Look at all of the other movies, if you will. Remember Terminator, right? What was the sole purpose of Terminator? The Terminator was to terminate physical human existence, okay? And it was a machine. Now, Terminator came first. You take machine and then you interface, or I should say interface, right? You connect that with the concept of the Matrix, where the machines were trying to kill the physical human beings, and the Matrix is a huge system of control that's designed to get out of what they want from these physical human beings. When you take a look at it, it all fits and it all comes together. So now here is my question. Is it possible that our hopes and dreams of being able to control our own financial destinies and our lives proper by means of using a decentralized monetary system like cryptocurrencies, is it possible that we were led into believing that that was the way to go and that it was going to somehow take the power away from the man and those, the wicked powers that be? Is it possible that we have been looking at that and wanting that, thinking that that is what we need to be empowered, when really it's us dancing to the beat of the Pied Piper? Are we dancing to the beat of the Pied Piper? Are we, thinking that this is going to liberate us, this is going to help us, but in reality, we're just simply following along in that which we were programmed to follow, even as we reach for freedom? Think about Neo in the original Matrix. I gotta go here. I'm sorry, I gotta go here. Look at Neo in the original Matrix. Notice that when it came to a climax, if you will, when the movie was coming to a climactic end, what happens? He has to go and see the architect. Now, and of course, they superimpose him as some sort of divine deity, right? He's sitting there behind his desk, white suit, white hair, yeah. And so, long story short, he's this so-called divine, this male divinity, that's supposed to be, the creator of the system. He's the architect, right? But Neo has to go meet him. But wait a minute. It's in that moment when Neo meets, and I know I'm taking you back into the movie, and I apologize, but I need to bring out this point, that when Neo meets the architect, when Neo meets him, he finds out that, now again, he thought that he was just this anomaly and he was just so special, he was so great, but he found out that there were other guys before me, and basically I'm nothing but a part of the program. I am a part of the very matrix that I'm trying to break out of, or that I'm trying to free people from, right? So in that, Neo finds out, now again, the analogy that I used was dancing to the Pied Piper, right? Neo found out that he was just another one of the mice that was dancing to the music of the Pied Piper. Yeah, he kind of rebels a little bit, and he saves Trinity anyway, which is interesting, right? He saves his woman, Trinity, which is really the church, right? Saves her miraculously, and so forth and so on. So here's my concern, and here's simply what I want to point your attention to. The overall phasing out of human existence as we know it, and interfacing humanity with a digital synthetic system and world, and even being that is not us. Okay. So why would that be something that someone is trying to do? Okay, let's ask that question. Why would that be something that someone is trying to do? Now, I'd also want to ask the question, well, are they trying it already? Are they doing it already? And I would have to say yes. They are doing it already, okay? They are doing it already, and it's just a simple fact that we ourselves, we may not know that they're doing it, but it's been done to us already. And this is what the whole thing is, all right? This is what the whole thing is. It's kind of like when, interesting, last night I had a dream about my mom, and so this example about my mom, she's transitioned on into eternity, bless her heart. High five to you, Mom. And one day she went, I forget where she went, I think she went to the Social Security office back in the day. And she's standing there in front of them, and the lady behind the counter told her, well, you have to prove to us that you exist. And I never forgot this being a kid. She said, you have to prove to us that you exist. She said, I do exist. I'm right here. She pulled out her driver's license, right? And the lady behind the counter was really giving her a hard time because she would not accept that my mom existed and that she was who she said that she was. So she ended up having to take out a series of documents. And the one document that she finally pulled out, had to go get, right, was her birth certificate. Once she pulled out her birth certificate, she could see, this person, whoever it was, could see that my mom did exist in the system. Okay? Now, be honest with you, that's really the matrix right there. Except it's in a two-dimensional paper form, right? Which later on gets put into a database and it becomes digital. Now, the digital reality is being brought into life front and center, where we actually physically interface our consciousness and our everything that we are into this digital world, if you will. And this is what I suspect, this is what I believe, that it's going to get so real that we ourselves and our consciousness, because they have the ability to do many things as far as manipulating consciousness, thoughts. I mean, we think that that's a frontier that they have yet to discover. Please, they have long since developed technologies and even hardware to tap into the depths of the human mind. And listen, anytime you can build a machine that is operable by means of your thoughts, that tells you automatically that they have not only come in contact with the concept of human consciousness and how to manipulate it, but they've also been able to build interfaces and machines around your ability to think. Okay? Do you not know that millions of dollars are spent? No, I'm sorry. I'm being very conservative, but billions of dollars are being spent on a yearly basis that simply involve channeling, shaping, and controlling the consciousness and the minds of those of us that are on this planet. True, right? Because that's where the real battle is. That's where the real control really is, right? That's where the real control really is. I forget who said it. I think it was, and I don't want to guess, but there was one particular activist who said, if you tell Negroes that they can only sit in the back, when you no longer demand it, they will create a doorway to facilitate what it was that once existed. In other words, it's just like when, okay, Rosa Parks, and we all know about Rosa Parks, right? She said, "I'm tired, I'm not getting up," right? That led to the boycott that then those of us who are people of color could now ride on the bus and sit anywhere we wanted to. Well, little did you all know that same Rosa Parks, even though she did that, and yes, she was famous, she did hit some hard times, and Little Caesar's Pizza actually came to the rescue, but that's a whole nother story. Bottom line is this: when she said, "Hey, I'm not doing it," rights were won for us so that we could sit anywhere on the bus. But what happened was, and I remember this even as a kid, the black folks, we still went to the back of the bus. Now, yeah, we could sit anywhere we want, and there were some people sitting where they wanted, but many of us, we chose the back of the bus. This is part of the mentality that says, this is what we do, this is who we are, therefore we are defined by this particular right, or we are defined by the struggle to achieve this particular right, or we are defined by the denial of that right. Let me venture forth and just see if we have any. Okay, we don't have any comments. Let me check Facebook real quick. I apologize for looking up and away from you. Okay, but we are back. So what happens is this: is that we are looking at the complete, if you will, let me say not complete, but you're looking at a digital interface being connected with human consciousness to where we then may not be what and who we were created to be ever again, if we go there. Okay. Now, some people are talking about the mark of the beast. if we get the big V, if we get the hokey pokey, if we get that, is that the mark of the beast? And we can even talk about that for a second. Because now, okay, okay, so let me end my first point. Wait a minute. Let me end my first point. My first point is this, and I'm bringing this up, and we're questioning this. Are we being phased out as biological entities for a digital reality? Okay? For a synthetic digital reality. Now, an interesting thing, and I got to mention this because I was talking about the movie Matrix. There's so much in the movie The Matrix, by the way. You remember the scene where of course, it's been called the white rabbit scene because, the young lady turns around and there's a white rabbit on her shoulder, and Trinity just said, go for the white rabbit, okay? Which we're not going to talk about the connection with that and Astarte and so forth and Easter, and we're not going to talk about that. That's something completely different. But what I do want to mention to you is, in that particular scene, right, the guy who comes up to the door, knocks on the door, despite the fact that he says, to Neo, you're my savior. Well, by the way, Neo means new, right? You're my savior. And then he says, oh, you look whiter than normal, right? So then as it goes on, he's there to pick up something. Now, here's something very interesting because I watched the movie and I studied the movie. And so Neo picks up a book and he hands him, some discs or whatever it is, their version of a thumb drive, whatever it was. And of course, he gives him money, and it's like, cool, right? But they pause for just a second on the cover of the book. And the cover of the book was something like Simulacra and Simulacrum, which is deep. I actually went out and bought the books. Because there's more than one book in that subject vein. But guess what the book talks about? Guess what the book is about? The book is about the creation, if you will, of something being similar to something that is real, but because you manipulate consciousness, you don't know what is the real and what is the unreal. Very deep, very deep. And it talks about how to do that and the consciousness behind doing that. And I didn't read the books fully. I didn't read the books completely. I believe I still have those books. I'll have to try to find them and see if I even have them. I may not have them anymore. But anyway, I remember them. I bought them. So I'm just going to say that I do. I'll have to try and find them. But anyway, here's my point. There is a color of reality that is not real. That is not real. And so I feel as if we need to be closer to our Elohim, closer to the Most High, so that we stay in the vein of what is truly real. Okay? I feel as if we're riding on the sine wave, and we're on the lower end of the sine wave. We're at the low peak. And we need to actually make sure that we're on the high peak and remain there, right? Stay on that level, stay on that frequency, stay up as high as you can, and not allow yourself to dip into the lower realms of frequency and vibration and spiritual attunement. Let's make sure that we stay high. And I know how that sounds, but I'm going to say it anyway. Let's make sure we stay high, okay? And not come down. I know people can have fun with that and say, man, dude just said, let's stay high. Yeah. I know that people can have fun with that, okay? So that's kind of what, I'm asking. That's kind of what I want to talk about, just me and my brother here right now. So don't know if you guys want to chime in or not, or maybe you will email me after you have seen this playback. But I think it's worth considering, and I think that it's worth thinking about. Okay? Are we being purposely Yeah, are we being purposely, yeah, stay high. Are we being purposely interfaced with a digital, I mean, is this a consciousness takeover? Okay. Is this a takeover of our spirit? Is this a takeover of our consciousness? That's my question. I'm not asking, should we do Bitcoin? Should we do cryptocurrency? Should we buy Ether? No, I'm not asking that, okay? Because I'm not looking at the particulars. I'm looking at the whole enchilada. Okay? This is Shabbat Morning Coffee. I am Malkia Uriel. And what I want to do right now in this moment is let's just go ahead and give me like a couple of seconds here. And hey, we're going to, I got to do one thing and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. And let's do this real quick to continue this conversation, to continue what we're doing here. Let's do this. I want to get into kind of like where the rubber meets the road with this particular subject, with this particular topic, okay? Again, my question is, are we becoming digital representatives of ourselves and therefore not ourselves at all? That's a question, right? That's a question. And so let's do this. Let's kind of go into some scriptures here. And this, of course, listen, when you want to tap into some of the what of this particular system, listen, there's nothing new under the sun, right? We all know that. There's absolutely nothing new under the sun. The systems that are in play today, they were, in essence, even in their smallest beginnings, they were a part. In fact, I want to do this because I think that my screen will be bigger. There we go. They were a reality back then, but they manifested differently. Okay, now the display and the manifestation is different, but the same spirit and essence of that system, yeah, it actually began back in the day. Okay, so in that sense, nothing has really changed. Okay, there is nothing new under the sun. Its representation may be new, but it itself is not new, and that is deep within itself. But I want you to look at this. In fact, we're going to go to Ezekiel 27 and look at verse number 13. Look at verse number 13. Verse number 13 is echoed, I believe, in the book of Revelation. I want to say chapter 18. And perhaps verse 13, maybe we'll go there. We'll see. In fact, there may be a reference to it here. We'll check it out. But notice what it reads in Ezekiel 27 and 13. Yavan, Tubal, okay, and Meshach, they were thy merchants. Now, these are those that were controlling the merchandising system of Babylon, okay? They were controlling the commerce, and they were controlling the Babylonian system of trade and finance, okay? If it were today, these would be the big bankers, these would be the tycoons, these would be the guys that are controlling everything, Yavan, Tubal, and Meshach. But now, let's go up, and let's take a look at what they were trading and what their commerce dealt in, right? Now, first of all, thy borders, verse number 4, thy borders are in the midst of the seas. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Because when we begin to talk about, oh, listen, and this gets so deep, because when you talk about the fact that there are different kinds of laws, there are different branches of law, if you will. There's common law, which is for the blood-born individual, the human being. There's also the natural law, which gives us the God-given rights. But there are also other kinds of laws, okay? And the law that controls merchandising just so happens to be admiralty law, which is what, basically contract law, which is what, many of us are under and don't realize it. But it's all a part of this system. And notice what it reads. Thy borders are in the midst of the seas, right? Thy builders have perfected thy beauty. So yeah, it's a beautiful system for them. They love it. It's a beautiful system, right? But hey, again, there's an allusion here in verse number 4 to admiralty law, which you may want to look that up and see what that's all about. Verse number 5, they have made all the ships, okay, all the shipboards of fir trees, of Sinir. They have taken cedars from Lebanon to make the mast. So in other words, they are very firmly fitted. They're very well established, right? Verse 6, of the oaks of Bashan have they made them oars. Now, Bashan is very interesting as a territory, and we're talking about it from a spiritual standpoint as well as from a physical standpoint. But for now, let's just keep reading. The Oaks of Bashan. Now, Bashan really plays out spiritually all the way up into, throughout the Tanakh, through the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD, so forth and so on. But let's continue. And they have made thine oars of the company of the Ashurites. They have made thy benches of ivory, brought out of thy isles of Chittim. Verse number 7. Okay, now, again, we're talking about their commerce, and we're talking about their system of trade, their system of commerce. Fine linen with broidered work from Egypt was that which thou spreadest forth to be thy sail. Blue and purple from the isle of Elisha was that which covered thee. The inhabitants of Zidon and Arvad were thy mariners. Thy wise men, O Tyrus, that were in thee were thy pilots. Now, verse number 9. It's getting very interesting here. The ancients of Gebal and the wise men thereof were in thee, thy caulkers. All the ships of the sea with their mariners were in thee to occupy thy merchandise. So their main thing is merchandising. Their main thing is basically commerce. That's what they're about, period. Verse number 10. They of Persia and of Lud and of Phut were in thine army. So in other words, they got the best to fight for them. So they've got a military, they've got navy, they've got basically admiralty law on their side, so forth and so on. I mean, they're outfitted, right? They got it going on, as I've heard it said, right? They've got it going on. So they have a system. They of Persia and they of Lud and they of Phut were in thine army, thy men of war. They hang their shields and helmets in thee, and they set forth thy comeliness or your beauty. Okay. The men of Arvad with thine army were upon the walls around about, and the Gamadims were in the towers. So in other words, man, they have the best of the best to fight for them. They've got the best of the best goods and services. They've got the best of the best, right? And we could make parallels to this, and we could make allusions to this, but that's not even needed. They have the best of the best. Verse number 12. Tarshish was thy merchant by reason of the multitude of all kinds of riches. Now we're naming the actual commodities that this Babylonian system was trading in. All right, so notice what it reads in verse 12. Tarshish was thy merchant by reason of all the multitude of for all kinds of riches. And notice what it reads. But silver, iron, tin, and lead they traded in thy fairs. Yavan, Tubal, and Meshech They were thy merchandise. They traded the persons of men. They actually traded people, human beings, as commodities and vessels of brass in thy market. They of the house of Togarmah traded in thy fairs with horses and horsemen and mules. The men of Dedan were thy merchants. Many isles were the merchandise of thine hand. And they brought thee for a present horns of ivory and ebony. So we're talking about a huge system here of merchandising, of trafficking, if you will. We're talking about a huge system, right? Because all commerce in the Bible is called traffic or trafficking. Looking at this particular system, looking at what's going on, we see the system of commerce that is basically in operation today. It's just that where we come into contact with this system is not where we think. We think as human beings, we think one way about our world and about our reality, and really the reality is that it's actually something completely different. What we think is reality and what is truly reality is two different things. It's two different stories. So let me break away for some comments here real quick, because I'm doing all the talking, and I don't want to do all the talk, right? Let me also check Facebook. All right. I mean, Facebook must have me on whatever algorithm that makes sure that you get negative digits as far as people seeing you. Anyhow, let's keep it moving. Test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Okay, I think you can hear me. Okay. So, all right, we don't have conversation here, but let me just say, I think a warning should be in place so that we watch ourselves and make sure that we stay real. In other words, keep it real. I guess that's what this conversation is all about. Keep it real. Okay? Stay real, keep it real. All right, now let's move forward, because I said we're also going to talk about some good books. I want to definitely do that. And to do that, we're going to phase into, now listen, all of these books that I'm showing you here, they're available through our Patreon portal. You can get to the library there. And let's look at some of these titles real quick. We're adding more books as we go. But some very important books here. We've got the calendrical variations in Second Temple Judaism, which is deep and interesting. Let's just talk about this for a second, okay? Let's talk about this as we go here, and we can tap into this book. Okay. Let's keep scrolling. When you take a look at this particular book, you'll find out that there was a calendrical system that actually ended up being the whole backdrop behind the sons of light and the sons of darkness, as are noted in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The reason why the sons of light fought the sons of darkness, which was basically an inter-Judaic war, if you mean, and I'm going to call it a war, because they were literally, they were fighting. I mean, and I'm talking about polemically, I'm talking about through things that were written, things that were said. It did kind of get to a point to where there was some physical violence between them, but for the most part, it was a war, if you will, of ideas. It was a war of ideas. It was a war of beliefs, right? Now, what difference in beliefs were they? Well, it was all surrounding the calendar, and the calendar that the Hebrews used throughout all of their existence, from the time, and I know this gets controversial, but from the time of Enoch all the way through until the changing of the guard and the New World Order within Jerusalem, where the Hasmoneans actually shook hands with the Romans to solidify their separation from the Greeks, and didn't realize that they were hopping in bed with the devil's granddaddy. So long story short, the powers that be that held sway over Jerusalem wanted to control everything, including the temple services and how they were run. Now, the main change that was being instituted was that comes from a lunar calendar as opposed to a solar calendar. This was huge. This was huge because in the book of Enoch, we can even give you an example of the book of Enoch where it talks about, and in fact, even in the book of Jubilees, when it talks about Noah in the book of Jubilees, it says that he stayed in the ark for a full year. Okay? He stayed in the ark for 364 days, which is a multiple of 30. So, long story short, it was a solar calendar, which meant that you were of the light. If you were of a lunar calendar, looking at the moon, then you, of course, were looking in the darkness for the moon. You were a son of darkness. Excuse me. And so these are juxtaposed to be enemies in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And so this was the main thing. It was a calendar war, and it was a discrepancy, if you will, in the actual calendars. Okay? That's what was going on. So we could take a look here, and we could just, keep reading, keep scrolling. But this is an interesting book because it talks about calendar, and it talks about the influence of calendar, how important it was. I have not read this book in its entirety, but I do know about the subject matter at hand. But this goes in depth. It goes in depth to giving you an understanding about the calendar, and even some precursors to Shabbat, so forth and so on. And as you can see, that there's discussions in this book about Mesopotamia and about Babylon and about basically about the world culture of the day, because Israel was not created. When Israel developed its ethnogenesis, it was not in a vacuum. Okay, they were real people that had a real worldview that was connected to the worldview of others around them. And I've mentioned that point several times, but hey, that's a part of the book as well. So this is a good book to get and to understand. This book will help you understand more about the Dead Sea Scrolls, more than you would have imagined. Okay. Let's see. What other book do we want to look at? Okay. Let me take a look at some comments here first. Curious about the emergency food survival book. I was just going to ask for a suggestion. So let's go there. All right, emergency food survival book. Let's go back there. Emergency food survival. Okay. All right. Let's talk about this for a moment. What you're going to find is now let me tell you what I know about this, even though I have not read this book. I'm being honest with you. I'm always being honest with you, but I just got to say, I haven't read this book. The handbook you need to keep your family safe, food, medical supplies, power, and more. Yeah, maybe I do need to look at this book and read it, okay? What am I prepping for? Chapter 2, water and food. Chapter 3, medicine, hygiene, and sanitation. Chapter 4, power and heat. Chapter 5, security and defense. Chapter 6, bugging out, right? Basically being prepared to hightail it at any given moment. And then, of course, there is a conclusion. This book looks like it covers a bunch, right? Notice, if you will, we have a topic here of war and conflict, right? 2 important rules for preppers. Let's continue this. Let's go to the next. Oh, I'm sorry. I went to other books. Hold on. All right. Introduction. It reads in the introduction, our lives are fragile. Things like like job loss, death, illness, and more can happen anytime, often without warning, and throw our routine into chaos. Many people don't like thinking about these things very often, and for a good reason. It's stressful, it's scary. However, by avoiding them altogether, it makes the actual emergencies so much worse, and that's very true. High five to the altar for that truth. Even our society is not as invincible as many might believe. While we usually have access to everything we could possibly need or want, things can change very quickly. As you can see where the book is going, it's taking you into the prepper's mentality, right? Everything is good, but hey, look beneath the surface, it could change in a moment. Job loss, personal loss, disease, outbreak, economic collapse. When you... again, these books are a part of our Patreon. All of these books basically become available to you. There is one link that I need to update that'll get you to the whole kit and caboodle. But other than that, once you join Patreon for any size donation per month, all of these books will be at your disposal for your perusing. And they give you some ideas here. Hold on. Canned fruit, vegetables, and beans, ideal for short-term and long-term prep. Fresh produce does not last long. True. You can freeze it, but your power might get cut off during an emergency. For prepping, canned is the way to go. Only buy the fruits and vegetables you enjoy. Store in a cool, dark place, and keep a list of expiration dates. They're giving you tips and pointers for canning. Now, let me go ahead and say this. I know for a fact that you can grow your own food indoors by utilizing pots, right, containers, and you can grow what you need to survive. You really can, okay? It just so happens that where I'm at, I don't necessarily have to do that, but I'm going to do that anyway. Because it is a good way to go. And I believe it's in Germany. They've outlawed growing your own food, and they've even done that in some places here where they can't grow the food, right? Yeah. Eggs, powdered eggs, freeze-dried meals, ideal for long-term prep. Now, this is the way to go right here, okay? This is the way to go. If you can freeze dry your food, and I know to do it, there is a unit that I looked at purchasing, and it was excess of $2,500, but with it, you could dry out food that would last you for 25 to 50 years. I'm sorry, 25 to 30 years. Now, that's a long time. You would have everything that you need, right? If you have these little food packs that you dry, and basically you can cook the food that you like, but you dry it out, okay? I want to say too, that's why it's good to also, if you can, get yourself some beef jerky. Beef jerky will last, okay? Get yourself some beef jerky, get yourself some dried food. Anything dried will last, all right? Whatever you can get your hands on with that. Next would be the canned foods. And then, of course, even beyond that, growing your own food would be the way to go. Baking soda and baking powder, ideal for long-term prepping. And I'm going to read this, okay? Both these ingredients are essential for baking goods, but they're great because they have other uses as well. Baking soda can be used as a disinfectant and odor absorber, right? We know that by putting baking soda in the refrigerator. Baking powder isn't too different, but if recipes call for both, you need to use both. Like baking soda, baking powder can be used for cleaning. Both properly stored, baking soda and baking powder can last around 3 years. They don't technically they don't expire, right? But they can lose their effectiveness. So store it, keep it, it'll last you for 3 years. Back in the day, I used to brush my teeth with baking powder, right? Especially when we didn't have toothpaste, and it would whiten your teeth just as well and freshen your teeth. So this is, again, this book is, hey, it's very helpful. It's very good. Okay. I want to start a line of videos that basically discuss things like this, that discuss making your own things, doing your own thing, right? Being as self-sufficient as possible. And hey, this book gets into a lot. By all means, take a look at the book. Let's take a look at some. Okay, any other books you want to look at? Any other books? Any other books? All right, let's go back here. Michael Heiser, Dr. High, as I like to call him. I'm going to mention this about his book. He, of course, is a Christian, and so therefore he leans towards the Trinity. So even though his writings are very informative and also entertaining, you yet have to deal with a number of Christianisms, right? Christianisms, which are, suppositions that have a Christian leaning to them that, you just automatically know that that's true as a Christian, right? It's true, as all Christians believe this, and so you should believe it too, kind of a thing, when really that is not the truth and that is not the reality. But this is nonetheless a good book that takes you into Habanei Elohim, right? The sons of God. Blackness in Israel, I have not read. I have not looked at that, but that might be something good to look at. Let's take a look at the inside of this and see what's up. This, of course, is Shabbat Morning Coffee, and hey, it's a low-key, very easygoing time where we discuss good books and topics. And Mohammed VI's Strategies for Moroccan Economic Development, Misrepresenting Black America in American Museums, The Literary History of the Igbo Novel, okay, Endogenous Regional Policy and Developing Planning in Ghana. Did you know that before Palestine, modern-day Palestine and the Levant was looked at as being the quote-unquote, chosen place, do you know that they were actually looking at the Congo in Africa? They were actually looking at the Congo in Africa, They were looking at the Congo in Africa as being that place, okay? And there's reason for that. There's big reason for that we could talk about. But for now, let's just get through this book, Blackness in Israel. Let's see here, okay. Looking at the context, part 1, background predicaments of Jewishness and blackness in the Jewish Israeli society, contested blackness, right? Blackness and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And then, of course, we have contributors and conclusions. Interesting book. Again, these are all interesting. I've got a lot of books. I got a lot of books that I'm looking at getting them put in PDF form so that I can share them with you. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars or how many thousands of dollars I've spent on books and material alone. Lots of good stuff here. You'll have to take a look, okay? And again, this is available to anyone who is a Patreon of ours, a patron. And, these books are for your perusing. They're in PDF form. And there is a book like this, the Hebrew for Theologians. We actually use in the Academy /University. We actually use it. And this particular book is not the one that we use, but it's one like it. That we use in our course, and with that, can I segue into that before I check for more comments? Okay. Let me mention this by way. Okay, I'm gonna segue out of that, and I want to go into our Academy site. And we are developing further and still. Now, there is a course that you can take through NBU. It's been upgraded from an academy to a university. Because of this, we are working on offering bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and doctorate degrees. So we're working on that, working on the actual programming itself, the actual degree programs, and we're going to have those up and running in, I want to say, in a couple of months. But by all means, stop by the academy. There is a course that you can take when you go here to the campus, right? When you take a course, you want to go to the campus, right? Admissions is where you can sign up, but you can also sign up in the campus. You can do a walk-in, just walk right up to the campus. Now, so far, the only published course that we have right now is the Hebrew alphabet memorization course. But that is, as I said, that is soon changing. What you're going to see is you're actually going to see the actual degree courses for bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and doctorate degrees. Now, in addition to this, you're also going to see other courses that you can take. It's going to kind of be also like a lynda.com, where you can take a course on, whatever, but it's going to be geared towards survival and self-sufficiency for Hebrews. All of this is going to be Hebraic, right? We want to keep it right there. So that being the case, that's pretty much that. Do I want to mention anything else to you before we skedaddle? I guess let me say this. One of the last things that I'm going to say just before I go. Yeah, last night I really did enjoy the Shabbat Night Praise. I really did. I enjoyed it a lot. And let me tell you what happened to me after. The Shabbat Night Praise. I actually continued with music. I kept it going. I kept it moving, right? And I just wanted to worship some more. So I ended up worshiping until about, now we got off, like 11:30-ish or something like that. I don't know if you remember, my brother, when we got off, like when we stopped, but I think it was around 11:30-ish or close to midnight. I could be correct. Well, let me tell you what happened. Okay. So I was worshiping, right? And so finally I stopped because, like another psalm and another melody hit me. So I'm working that out, which I believe I have two. Okay. Oh, wow. It was later than that. Wow. I believe I have two new ones that we're going to be, introducing. So I get done, and I think it was about like 1:40. No, it's like 1:30-ish. So I'm like, you know what? I may as well go to bed. I can sleep in a little bit tomorrow. I've got Shabbat Morning Coffee, but for me, sleeping in is 8, 9. I mean, that's really sleeping in for me. That's almost like noon for me. So I'm minding my own business. Next thing I know, my work phone rings. And when my work phone rings, it apparently I was on call and didn't know that I was on call. So at about 2 a.m. in the morning, I had to rush out and go to work and then come back home and try to hop in bed and get some sleep before Shabbat Morning Coffee. And believe it or not, I feel fine. But I'm going to get off here and I'm going to chill and I'm going to enjoy the rest of my Shabbat. And say a prayer for me, if you will. And by all means, do connect with us and support. For those of you that will see this later, definitely connect with us and support. Give us a thumbs up. Share our videos. Let's help our algorithm to get what we do out there in front of more people. If you enjoy it, and I appreciate the fact that you do, my brother Bergen Paris, I appreciate you always being here. What I would like to do is I'd like to, well, I mean, I just did it, right? I just made you a moderator. You are here, and you have been very faithful. You've been very helpful, so I appreciate you. And so, hey, if you will be so kind as to be a moderator, hey, I would appreciate that. Last night, yeah, thanks. Last night was great. I enjoyed it. I loved it. And what I love too is the fact that we had, I mean, can we say that our attendance increased 400% because there were 4 people there? No, it was a great time, and I appreciate everyone that stopped by. That was really nice. That was really wonderful, and we're gonna keep it up, of course. And we're gonna get it to where maybe we can get some, some community activities, where we can get some people to chime in and, flow with us. So, peace and blessings. Appreciate you, my brother. Appreciate you being here. I know that it may have been a stretch for you to arrange this, for you to make this happen. But hey, I'm glad that you did. Glad that you are here. And I'm going to open it up for questions. And yeah. If there are no questions, then I am going to wait just a little bit, and then we're going to hightail it out of here. And I'm going to go chill. Yes, I am. Yeah. Can't wait. Oh, turn up some music while I just wait. All right, I don't think we have any questions. Peace and blessings, my brother. Peace and blessings. I'm Malkia Uriel. This has been Shabbat Morning Coffee. Appreciate you. And hey, love you. And we are out. Make sure you enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. Make sure you enjoy it. I'm getting ready to enjoy it, right? I know some of you are forced to work, but hey, again, he delivers us from the snare of the fowler. When the bird does what it needs to do just to try to survive, often the fowler will make a trap out of that bird just doing what it needs to survive. And of course, our Elohim will rescue us out of the snare of the fowler. So I pray that he rescues you out of the snare of the fowler so that you don't have to work on Shabbat, me included. And hey, we'll go from there. Peace and blessings. We're out.